Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but today we're going to do another review of the Crooked Moon subclasses. This time we're covering the Crimson Sorcerer, the Horned King Patron Warlock, and the Great Fool Patron Warlocks. So we have plenty to cover, from clowns to Blair Witch. But let's start with a bit of hemomancy, shall we? So, bloodbending takes your fancy here. Are we trying to be Marie from Gen V or Vladimir from League of Legends? They're not exactly movie poster powers, but I think this best suits an outcast who hides their power for fear of scaring the shit out of everyone. The book does also suggest optionally reflavoring this as just life force. This would make it work with constructs or bloodless creatures. It just creates less mess overall. Looking over other sorcerer subclasses, they get quite a lot going for them. Strong spell lists, draconic flight, bending luck to your whim, just having chaos and wild magic, or just the order of clockwork. So let's see if blood control can live up to all of this. So starting with our spell list then, we get 4 spells right away that affect allies' health in some way. So right away we can see this subclass has healing, self-healing kind of theme to it. As usual, I'll go over the new spells. Starting with Blood Bolt, which is a long-range, low-damage cantrip that gives a very, very tiny amount of temporary health. This is actually not great. It's very on theme at least, but temp health doesn't stack, which means having very small increments doesn't really do much for you, as it doesn't work with anything else that gives temp health. If temp health like this was actually useful, you'd see people casting the spell Heroism, but I don't see that ever. I think you should just be using higher damage cantrips that you have access to as a sorcerer, unless you're really trying to stay on theme. The spell Blood Sacrifice is a rare self-damaging bonus action spell that makes it so for the next minute the damage you took is essentially added to every damaging spell you cast. Now, the longer the combat goes, the more value this provides. But I actually just think this is fantastic to have as an option in fights where you're not being targeted. Just increase your DPS quite a bit. You can do this before doing a damaging cantrip on the same turn to get the benefits immediately. And on the following turn, you can do a cantrip followed by Quicken Spell to get 2 uses of it the next turn. My only gripe is it competes with innate sorcery for what you're doing as your bonus action on the first turn. Not great for action economy, but this one's pretty good. At level 5 we gain more life restoration with Vampiric Touch, along with the new 15-foot emanation Crimson Harvest. This is one of those spells where the best case scenario is being in the center of a large group of enemies, which is not exactly somewhere you want to be as a sorcerer. And I think between these 2 spells it's quite a big indicator that this sorcerer kind of wants to be frontline. I'm not sold on a frontline sorcerer. You do not get enough health for that. But, you know, maybe enough spells or features will make up for that. Level 7 you gain Death Ward and Sacrificial Siphon, another new spell that's strange and honestly quite bad, I think. It's a touch curse, so maybe you could use it with distant spell meta magic? But even so, if they pass the save, it kind of doesn't do anything. But if they fail, it's a concentration spell that gives you constantly refilling 10 temp health and banes the attacks of the cursed target. I just can't ever see this being worth a 4th level spell slot. It might be the best way to get tanky and lots of constant temp health, but having your survivability rely on a concentration spell, and then when that's gone, you're just a squishy D6 hit point class. I really wish this didn't rely on concentration, and maybe was an ability rather than a spell or something, so I could take this and take the sorcerer frontlining without panicking every time it's the DM's turn. Strangely enough, the level 9 spells are actually kind of fantastic backline healer spells. Mass Cure Wounds is a staple of the party healer, and Field of Reaping is an incredibly evocative spell, cursing a 30-foot cube pretty much anywhere. No save, just bonus damage on every hit against the cursed fools, and healing on the same trigger. You get dual-wielding fighter with Action Surge in there, and it's 5d6 extra damage and 5d6 healing for no extra action or reaction cost. This is my kind of concentration spell. Keep the enemies away, attacking other people, and keep those people alive and the enemies in pain. My squishy little ass hiding behind some barrels somewhere, reaping what I sow. So the spell list overall is pretty cool. It kind of hints to being a frontline healer for a lot of it. We're going to have to come back to that when we read the features to see if that's actually viable. Cool, so our level 3 trait then is Bloodwell, a single charge per day ability that either adds damage or healing to whatever you deal. Fortunately though, that's not all. If it was, I would just call this subclass a wrap and you could go back to doing whatever you were doing before watching this video. But you do actually get the charge back whenever you deal 10 or more necrotic damage at one time, which, when you look at this spell list and the fact that this adds necrotic damage, shockingly easy. Hell, even a cantrip like Toll the Dead plus this Bloodwell damage gets you the charge back 62% of the time. Keeping this charge up every turn is quite a fun minigame the class has to play. I'm a big fan of level 3 traits that give us a target to achieve during combat, an extra thing to think about. At level 6 we get Pool of Blood, which changes a lot of things about you. I don't have time to go into the entire list, so I'll highlight some important ones. The main use of this is to keep a concentration spell up, I think, mainly because it gives damage resists and an advantage on concentration saves. I'm not sure that's ever worth foregoing a turn and casting extra spells though, but that I guess depends on how encounter winning that concentration spell is. Out of combat this has some excellent connotations, and it does come a lot sooner than the flying from the Draconic Sorcerer. You also get Scarlet Vigor, which gives you resistance to necrotic and can remove exhaustion? I would much rather ignore necrotic resistances than have resistance to necrotic damage myself, but hey, it's something, right? Removing exhaustion is so strange. I can't think of any other ability that does this. Maybe that's for a good reason? I might be wrong. I'm just not something I'm familiar with. At level 14 we get an easier way to get Bloodwell back, and more importantly, can use the Bloodwell in place of meta magic costs. These are both probably not worth it though, in my opinion. The Bloodwell was already pretty easy to get back, and at level 14, the Sorcerer has 14 meta magic points. You get some back on a short rest and can get more if needed. So this is an underwhelming feature, especially for level 14. At level 18, you basically gain an extra one-use spell, except it doesn't count as a spell, called Sanguine Feast. This is like Vampiric Touch on steroids. It's a decent AoE, and if you get in the middle of enough enemies, it will definitely do a lot of damage and heal you up to full with some gross bloody tendrils. That's pretty cool. We are talking about level 18 where you get some access to level 9 spells. Also, this is doing one of the worst damage types, and we can't circumvent necrotic resistance. Hey, we can't even use meta magic or innate sorcery on this because it doesn't count as a spell. Okay, I don't think you need me to spell it out for you, but I don't like this subclass. It's an attempt at a healer sorcerer, but muddled in with some very short range emanations and illusions to frontlining, but doesn't really give you any ability to frontline, except healing. But you know, you can just be knocked down in one round of combat and then you don't get to heal at all, or heck, even CC'd in some way, and then suddenly one round of stun and you're frontlining sorcerer with no defense and no healing. You're screwed. Now, could you build this as a multi-classed Celestial Patron Warlock and go full backline healer? Yeah, sure. I think that's how I'd do it. Bloodwell's going to work really well, but I don't think that's enough to make me think this is a Pool of Blood rather than a Pool of Piss. So, yeah, it gets a D from me. It just kind of kept getting worse as we read on, and other subclasses get really, really good at those levels. Having said that, I do want to talk about Magical Christmas Land for a second, where you death ward yourself, walk into the middle of an enemy encounter, get swarmed, the enemy gets you to 1 health, it goes to your turn, there's no hope, and then you use this level 18 feature, followed by an empowered Quicken level 9 Crimson Harvest around yourself for 9d10 plus 5d8 necrotic damage and heal yourself to full. Boom! That's a pretty fun turn. I want to live in that world. I just don't think that world is D&D, unfortunately. Alright, well, 1 subclass down and 2 to go. We're moving on to Warlocks now, and they're a wild bunch, aren't they? From the Eldritch Blast spammers to the Eldritch Blast spammers. No, sorry, I meant the other type of Warlocks. The, what was it? The Eldritch Blast spammers. Oh, no. Anyway. The Horned King's an entity from the Crooked Moon adventure, but more generally represents curses and maledictions, hate and agony. So, cheerful chappies then. Okay, spell list first as usual, and thankfully this time no new ones to go over. but it is a strange list. There's too much overlapping concentration for my liking. If you bane them, you can't curse or dominate them, and vice versa. Kind of makes most of the spells on the list redundant. From level 3, Witch's Mark allows you each long rest to have essentially a spell storing scroll. But better? If nothing else, you can use this feature to get 3 spells off in a fight, making all the other warlocks very jealous. I also like how this feature scales, just getting better and better as your spells get better. That's pretty cool, and a very generically powerful effect. You also gain a magic action or reaction to being targeted called malediction, where you curse a creature within 60 foot of you. The curse is decent for a reaction cost, and you can do it charisma charges per long rest. The rot option reminds me of chill touch, and the agony option reminds me of silver barbs. These are both very nice things, and your DM's gonna absolutely love you for it. Level 6 is a once per long rest upgrade to your malediction. Best case scenario, you get a boss who has low wisdom and you make them stuck using dodge. But, you know, legendary resistances do exist. Level 10 is another once per long rest feature, and wow, we get an extra per turn legendary resistance burner, which is what I'm calling saves now, apparently. Okay, but now the boss is really screwed, right? I mean, most things only get a couple of legendary resistances, and we are causing them to burn through them at a unprecedented rate. We get 2 as a bonus action, and at the start of each turn, force a charisma save. Charisma saves are low on most monsters as well. And the option to frighten each turn is kind of boss fight ruining. The only hang up I have is the 20-foot range is pretty short, and as it's the start of your turn, you can't move to get into range for it. A smart DM can therefore play around this quite easily, and I think they have to, otherwise you're just going to ruin all of their toys. At level 14, it's piling on more of the same. You perform a 1-hour ritual which can be done during a rest, forming a bond with up to 6 willing creatures, so your party in general. They gain a once per long rest use of malediction. They also gain extra damage whilst you are using your level 10 feature, and you get limited teleporting to them. So this is all double, triple, quadrupling down on debuffing, which is actually a really cool concept for a subclass. It's also something I haven't really experienced much in D&D, and I think it's quite useful against the way D&D works with legendary resistances. Once they are burnt through, they are gone, and after that point, every CC you do is pretty debilitating for any large boss creature. Also, with some stuff having very, very high saves, doubling down on CC is also quite important. I like how feature complete this feels, where you can go anywhere you want with the regular Warlock stuff, and this will just add an entire debuff and control package to it. I think levels 6 to 9 will be a struggle point though, and by struggle point, I guess I still mean you have an extra spell in Witch's Mark, and you have a trigger that can impose disadvantage on attacks, and you still have your base Warlock stuff. Yeah, you're still strong 6 to 9, even at the weak point. This subclass is great to focus level, and it may be even better to be a 3-level dip into. Look, not every problem can be solved with control spells. Sometimes flat damage, tankiness, or mobility are the tools you need. But Warlock's flexible enough to cover those, right? And this subclass specializes hard. It's really what I want from a Warlock subclass, because of how flexible Warlock can be. I will definitely be considering this as a 3-level dip in the future characters. This earns an easy A in my books. The only thing stopping this being an S, genuinely, is that combats using this CC every single time will actually get quite frustrating for the DM. That's kind of the only thing that takes away from an S. Maybe that's unfair, as this should be player focused, but I'm a forever DM, so I have that perspective. Now prepare to laugh in the face of danger with foolish antics. That's the tagline for the Great Fool Patron Warlock, and I know a lot of people that really enjoy that fantasy. But I will quickly chime in that this subclass is one I would be really careful about allowing players to use. Laughing at death can really screw up the group roleplay dynamic, depending on the group. The spell list is once again wild and all over the place, but I want to highlight Spiritual Weapon and how fun that can be for Warlocks, just getting to use their bonus actions on it every combat. Puppet Master is a new spell and another great use of bonus actions. I would highly suggest using this on the strongest minion that isn't a boss in a fight. That way avoiding their legendary resistances and turning the minion on your side. At level 3 you gain Killing Joke. As a reaction to a creature taking damage or failing a saving throw, you can take a reaction to cast Vicious Mockery on that creature. Unless I'm sorely mistaken, Vicious Mockery is included in the spell list, which means it now counts as a Warlock spell for you. Which means you get to augment it with invocations, notably Agonizing Blast and Repelling Blast. I don't think this ever gets to like broken levels of damage, but early levels it starts off real strong. Not to mention the opponents have disadvantaged attacks as well after it. The only awkwardness here comes if you start below level 3 and you're leveling your character throughout the game. You only get this cantrip as a Warlock spell at level 3, and rules as written, you can only empower it once you get to level 5 and expand your invocation list. That means before level 5 you don't really get any of this to work. I'm still going to count it as a fantastic feature though. If you build a level 3 character it should all work fine. Even high level monsters aren't safe. They won't want to spend a resistance just on a reaction cantrip that you threw out. But if they don't, you're going to be hitting with disadvantage and taking decent amounts of psychic damage. At level 6 then, we don full clown mode and gain Jester Japes. Once per short rest as an action with a charisma save, you can potentially blind, slow, reveal, or neuter for up to 1 minute. Blind seems by far the best here though. Imposing disadvantage on attacks and attacks against it have advantage. There are other benefits to blind on top of that, but that's enough. To be honest, I wish the other effects were better, more competitive with blind anyway. They're definitely more fun. Squeaking Shoes should do something like thunder damage every time they move or something. And Jolly Arms is just incredible, I guess against something with Blind Sight or Tremor Sense. Your whole group could just be in for a barrel of laughs as it flails about with balloons and cloth. Nothing's funnier than a big bad wielding an inflatable hammer that squeaks on hit. Level 10 features a bit of a weird one with Mocking Banter. It's another use of reaction. This time, once per short rest, in response to you taking damage, you return potentially the same damage. That's great if your DM throws something big your way. Just make sure you use it before you take damage to 0. You can't react after that. I'm really not sold on the flavor of this ability though. I can see like Wobbuffet from Pokemon, or maybe it should be called Stop Hitting Yourself or something. I don't know why it's called Mocking Banter. Maybe it's like, you think that hurt? But that's more cheesy than funny. At level 14 you get Send in the Clouds, which just, what a title. 3 spectral clowns make spell attacks at 60-foot range. On hit, deal 2d10 psychic damage and cause frightened or prone with no save. This does cost your action to summon and an action to repeat the attacks, but that's it. No spell slot. So a saveless 60-10 damage that causes fear or prone on 3 enemies every turn for an entire fight. Whew. It's a good job this is a once per long rest feature, because this is so good. Coupled with Puppet Master or Spiritual Weapon taking up your bonus actions, and you're just dominating the battlefield one-man army style. I kind of wish this was flavoured as like, here comes the circus, with different performers doing different things. But 3 Spectral Clowns is fine, it's still cool. Okay then, overall it's hit or miss with flavour on this class, but power-wise, the strength is there for sure. My actual gripe is how many things in this you have to keep track of. Half the features come back on short rest, half of them on long rest. Killing Joke a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, tracking uses of 4 new things on top of spell slots and Mystic Arcanum uses, magical cunning, invocation uses. Man, poor Warlocks, it's all so damn much. If you're someone that loves to always have a trick up their sleeve in a box of 100 tricks, DMs, you better be ready, because the wrong person playing this will destroy you. But equally, the wrong person playing this will just get overwhelmed and slow the game down to a grind. I can't give this less than a B due to its sheer power, but the confusing flavor, complicated usage, and potential to kind of ruin a game, to be honest, I can't go higher either, so we're sticking with a B, just with a caveat of a warning. Well, that's it for today then. By far the longest and most complex review from this book. Someone was cooking with these subclasses, from a frontline sorcerer attempt, or whatever the hell the Great Fool Warlock is supposed to be. I hope reviewing these hasn't affected my psyche in any way. Now, I'm going to go listen to Screaming Jay Hawkins and watch some Charmed reruns. I'll catch you next time.